Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Tradex webinar, the Tradex eCatalogue and eRequisition solution, by introducing who we've got here today. So I'm Jenny, I'll be hosting the webinar today, and we've got Andrew Woolstone, who is a solutions manager, and he'll be doing the presentation. What we'll be covering today will be the introduction of the software, the product catalogue, how to raise a requisition, managing incoming orders and free test orders, and as I said, we'll have the question and answer session at the end. Okay, well, without further ado, I will pass you over to Andrew so he can begin his presentation. Thanks very much.
Right, thank you very much, Jenny, and thanks everybody for your time taking to have a look at this this presentation today. So, as Jenny said, what we're going to do is have a look at the Tradex solution from Causeway company name Tradex as their product itself. So Tradex is part of the source to pay platform. You may be familiar with Tradex for its document exchange function, so you might be using that for sending invoices to your customers. Maybe you're receiving orders from customers, or maybe doing that with your suppliers as well. Just because you are suppliers doesn't mean you don't buy things. So it's well established as an electronic trading hub and as a platform for sending transactional documents. You might also know us from supply management, so things like supply accreditation, supply performance management, so that allowing companies to manage a list of their suppliers, subcontractors, accredit those within the platform, rate those within the platform, and keep on top of that from a compliance perspective. However, today the seminar is on, or the session is on, catalogs and the requisitions piece. So this is something that as a supplier you can make your products available to buyers that are using the catalog within the Tradex platform. So this can be available. So I'll show you later on from a supplier's perspective how you can load the products into the catalog and manage those. So that would have to be done up front, assuming you have an agreed list of products, prices, details, etc. for the customers that you're working with. So we'll go through that process, but from a buyer's perspective, what they can do is they can either use the Tradex platform as a punch out from their own back office system, i.e. they're in their finance system, they're raising a requisition or they're raising a purchase order, and they would select you as a supplier. Within their system, that would then identify they're a catalog supplier, so that would then automatically open up and can log them into this screen here, which would effectively filter perhaps on a supplier or maybe not, and allows them to select products from a catalog. Alternatively, they can come directly into Tradex and browse the catalog, as I've done today, as you can see that. So on the left-hand side, or in this middle sort of grey panel, the left-hand side of the products, we have the ability to search the catalog. So we might want to search it by some free text. We might want to search it down by categories. So when you're loading the products in from your catalog, you're loading your products in, you can position those, or group those into 3 levels of hierarchy. So for example, aggregates into ballast, gravel, sand, etc. Whatever makes sense to you and to your customers. That can then be used to filter out particular sets of products, so we can just filter out and see what we would like. From here, any of the buyers can say, okay, fine, I'm happy with that particular product. They can see information, just example pricing here. They can see perhaps sort of delivery or typical delivery times. If products are available, we would then later on be able to add and display sort of thumbnail images or access to more product details if that is available, and then they can add those products to the basket. So if I carry on just adding more products here, you can see the trolley top right is starting to increment as we're getting more and more products into the system. Alternatively, so we can search by category. We could also search and filter it down by suppliers, for example. So if I just wanted to narrow it down by one particular supplier, then I could have a look at just products available from that particular supplier and then add that to the basket as well. So we have the ability to hold a list of products with as much detail as you like, and I'll show you some of that detail and the extra information that we're storing in a little while, and allow the buyer, allow your customers to add those products to their basket and then complete more information in terms of adding the requisition details. Now, some of our customers operate this on behalf of others, so maybe they're offering sort of maybe something like a rehire desk, or they're offering an outsourced procurement where they're procuring on behalf of other people, and then could do things like specify their location. We can also have configurable information that those buyers want to capture, things like contract code, who the original requester is, maybe particular dates. We can specify whether we want to collect from a particular branch and store those branches within the system itself, or would specify delivery to the project address or the site address typically. And then we can specify or select a particular location at the line level if that's relevant, perhaps maybe put in some additional sort of activity coding or WBS, work breakdown structure coding. So, you know, when this order or when this requisition turns into an order that goes into the back office system, what we want to capture is what project it's for, what's the resource code, what's activity codes, etc. So that may be entered at a later date in the back office system, or the system can be configured so that we're capturing that information right up front. And then other information can be added to the line here. As you can see, the number of quantity could be changed here, etc. So that's adding. So that's sort of looking at the catalog from a buyer's perspective. And now we're landed into the requisition. We talk about this concept of free text lines and catalog lines. So the first three lines that we've got on the requisition so far have come in from the catalog. However, we also have a link at the top that allows us to go and add some additional items into the order that's not from a catalog. So the catalog is the first place, but actually we could add some free text line for other items that aren't straightforward and standard product items. So in here I could search my list of accredited companies, so I could either just search for everybody. I could also filter that list down by trade, by location that the project is in, or by some other information. Maybe just want to have a look at strategic or considered companies within the list. And then I can see a list of results. Now, my company as a buying organization, I've put my suppliers into a tiered or a sort of a graded list, where at the top of the list I might have some strategic suppliers. Further on down, I've got some considered. Keep going down, I've got some companies that are still going through that accreditation process at the moment. So we have the ability to look at a very large and grade and manage that list of companies. And behind each company, we're storing a great deal of information. But also on the right hand side, you can see that there's a star rating. So taking the feedback from my site teams and my procurement teams, the buyers can then say, okay, we're going to put the suppliers at the top of the list that we have the best relationship with, but that we also have had the best performance from them as well. So it's really an incentive to say, okay, fine, when we're completing performance reviews about those suppliers are then higher up in the list, so we can clearly see the ones that are performing well or the ones that need to work with for improvement. And behind each of these suppliers, there's a great deal of information, such as health and safety information, their insurance details, financial stability, perhaps any references, quality, where they're based, who the contacts are, who the directors are, all that information. So really there's a great deal of functionality that our buyer customers are using to not only procure from, but also make sure that their supply chain are accredited. So for you as a supplier, you need to log on to the system and keep your details up to date in order to keep that green traffic light and make sure that when things like insurances expire, that information is kept up to date. So from here, I may then want to select a couple of companies and then add that to the requisition. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to do that again. So I can then go and, let's go and add those companies. And add those companies into the requisition. So now the requisition is made up of multiple suppliers, and that's fine. It's only a requisition at the stage. It hasn't actually turned into purchase orders. And now we could add additional information, determine their locations, say the price that then we've agreed with them, and add that. Now, this requisition can do multiple things. So if I'm still waiting on pricing, or if I'm still waiting on details, I could save that as a draft requisition, come back to it at a later point in time, and then open it up and complete the details. Or when I'm happy, I can submit that. Now, depending on my particular business and the company that I work in, it may then have to follow an approval process. So that approval process may just send the data back to my back office system. I would then get that requisition approved inside my back office system, get that transferred to an order, and then send the order back through Tradex. Or perhaps you want the approval to take place in the Tradex platform, so this would then be sent to my manager based on perhaps the total value, maybe based on the contract or other information that would then be sent to somebody for review and approval. They agree, disagree, ask me to reduce price, volume, quantity, whatever it happens to be, and then eventually it comes out the other end, hopefully accepted or rejected. Within Tradex, we have the ability to split one requisition into multiple lines so that we can deal with multiple suppliers. So, you know, there might be 3 or 4 different suppliers on a particular requisition that would then get individual orders when it actually gets placed with an order, and the sending of the order would be managed through the Tradex platform, ready for the invoice to come back into the platform to be validated by that order as well. So we're really joining up the standard product list by managing the catalog, the browsing or the creation of the requisition of what we want to buy through standard items or free text items, managing that approval process in the platform or in the back office system, sending the order electronically, either as what we describe as integrated, so send it to you as a supplier as a data file that you could take and feed directly into your back office system, or if you don't have that capability, you'd receive it as a link in an email to a PDF document. When you then invoice that your customer, that would then come back through Tradex. Tradex would then validate the information and then send it, once it's been approved, into the customer's back office system. And that's the standard sort of Tradex process that we're coming within the price. So today we're only looking at one small part of that process in terms of the catalog and the requisition, but it's part of an end-to-end platform from accreditation through to the actual transactional piece and performance management. So as a buyer, that's typically all I'm doing is I'm browsing the catalog, adding the products in, browsing my free texts, my accredited suppliers, adding other items into the requisition, and then submitting that for approval, which could then be automatically sent out. Now, as a supplier within the business, what we also have the ability to do is manage the catalog. So we can create the catalog here. The catalog, when they get added, can be made available to one or many customers. So you may have one catalog per customer if they've got special pricing, or if you have a standard catalog, you can make that available to multiple customers at one time, and that can be maintained and identified in the system. The catalog items themselves are then managed here. So the sorts of information that we would want from you as a supplier would be something like a product description, typically who the manufacturer is, what the manufacturer's product code is, what your product code is for it, units, what sort of things like minimum order quantities that you would accept for validation. We'd want a price. We'd want URLs, so if you can provide URLs to things like thumbnails, to high-res images and to other product data information, then that could then be available to the buyer. And then down below, we would want some classification codes for analysis. So things like the UNSPSC code, maybe the Luckin's code, again, depending on the type of product, depending on the industry, would then vary for the appropriate commodity code or internal resource code as well. So here we have the ability to store some information about the product itself. What our customers can also store is the supplier or suppliers for this product. So we have the flexibility to say, if we're buying it from this location, then we buy it from this supplier and this branch or location of that supplier. However, if we're buying it from a different location, we use a different supplier or a different branch of the same supplier. Now that can be used for the automation, so that when we're automatically passing these through, the business rules within the system can automatically send the order to the right place, or we can make that information available to the user to pick their preferred supplier, or maybe there's some other business rules there. But it does cater for one product to multiple suppliers if that's how our customers, how the buyers want that to be set up within the system. So within the application here, you can see you can import the information. So where we've got the catalog in the first place, you can import that catalog in. You'd select a file and of product information, and that would get imported. That would be typically be a CSV, like an Excel spreadsheet sort of thing. That would be created and maintained, and then you'd select the customers that they're available to. Now, in terms of the user interface from a customer's perspective, this could be made available to them as a punch out from their back office system, as a standalone, or if you wanted to offer this as a more of a sort of, I guess, a generic type catalog through your own site, so you give your customers out, then you can make access available to your system, to your customers. They would log into the system and they would then raise and send orders automatically to yourselves, depending on how you want the use of the catalog to work here. So that's a sort of a very brief overview of the catalog itself, with the information available in a browse searching format, in a hierarchical format, raise it through the requisition, and then process through the platform itself. One of the key advantages of putting all of this information through the platform is to provide the analytics capability afterwards for looking at the information and for analyzing that data. So we have an analytics component that allows us to look at things like to monitor, so our customers could monitor on things like delivery performance, where we have the ability for them to maybe rate particular performance of suppliers, where you might want to manage or monitor things like the procurement information. So they would be looking at things like spend by category. So what of our most popular products going through? Where are we spending the most with some of our suppliers? You know, all of those league tables. So through the platform, we're storing and we're managing the supplier detailed accreditation information. So that's all of the detailed information about the supplier, their turnover, their capabilities, my relationship level with them. We're storing the preferred products areas in the catalog. We're storing the actual spend in the platform going through. So in terms of our committed spend of orders going out, actual spend in terms of invoices coming in. And then with all of that, and then the performance. So with all of that, it really gives a really rich information to be able to put some great analytics on top of that, so that we can make sure from a buyer's perspective that they are spending their money with the correct suppliers, and from a supplier's perspective, where you can then analyze your orders, your effectively, I guess, income or the buyer spend through the platform as well. So that was just a very quick run through of the catalog, the requisitions, searching the supplier database for accredited suppliers, having a quick look of sorts of information that we're storing within the database, seeing how you as a supplier could maintain the catalog itself, and then also having a look at the analytics, once we've got all this information in the system, what we can start to do with that data within the platform. So just a quick overview, but hopefully giving you a bit of a food for thought to see some of the capabilities and some of the ways that our customers are using the Tradex system today. So we have another poll, I think, that we were going to run.
Absolutely.
Just to see. Yeah.
If you're a supplier, can you provide a real-time feed of product details? So once again, just select one of the following answers and we'll wait for those to come through.
So by real time, where we're looking to take this, and I guess from our perspective, is real-time stock information is absolutely key to a lot of the buyers. So, whether you have an API or some sort of real-time link that we'd be able to access and pump that out. So it seems, getting some stats back on that. Yeah, 67% people are able to provide that, which is great. So that's where we'd like to work with you to understand exactly how your customers can get real-time information and really make that of value to them.
So we've had a few questions come in from John, so I'll ask you these questions again. If you have any questions at all, type them in the question box, and we'll get to them in one moment. But the first one was, can you have a different list of products for different customers?
Yes, you can. So are you still looking at my screen? Is that?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, okay, fine. So where I go to the import of the catalog, at that point in time, you would then select the customer or customers that supplier is, that catalog is made available for. So you can say, okay, fine, this particular catalog that I'm about to import is suitable for those two companies. It can be multiple, etc. And then it was only those particular customers of yours would then see that catalog.
Thanks very much, Andrew. The next one was, you said the system would show stock levels. Does it handle different stock levels at different branches?
That isn't something that we have today in terms of that real time. If you could provide that real time feed, then we would we would be able to find a way. So I think the answer is we haven't got that today, but where we could display that, I guess, would be on maybe be better to click here. So as you go into that product details, we would then do it on additional screen. So I think for that one, we'd have to build an additional branches screen and then do the real-time feed at that level. So if that's something that you can provide access through from a web service or some other API into that information, then that's something that we could display and perhaps even then validate on. So when we're actually then processing the order, we could use that same information to validate that real-time stock again. So I guess we've got the difference between the requisition and display the stock at that point in time. But then if we've still got access to that information, that might then take a few days to go through their internal approval process. Or why not get that to validate the stock level again at the time of actually placing the order to make sure that the stock's still available at that point in time. So answer is not today, but definitely that's something that we'd look to do, not only in the catalog, but also in the order validation stage as well.
Thanks very much. And the last questions I've got at the moment is, how does the system handle non-catalog items?
Okay, so that for me is described as free text. So in this requisition that I'm acting as a buyer and raising, my first 3 lines are from the catalog. My bottom 2 lines are non-catalog. So I describe those as free text on non-catalog items, where I've selected my supplier by looking at my accredited suppliers list, and then I would just type in cement bags or whatever it is, type in all the information, what's my expected delivery date, the activity code, the quantity, price. So I can, just sort of free text entry the lines in on that requisition, and that's effectively for the non-catalog items.
Thanks, Andrew. Another one just slipped through. Can you capture other information when the order is taken? For example, operatives, vehicle regs, or plot numbers?
We can, yep. So at the top, I have things like contract code requester and have an on-hire date, and the bottom comment. These are configurable, what I describe as online document fields. So you can create, these, whether we'd manage or whatever, but we can set these up, and we can set up through the administration options. I think there's partner attributes, not that one there, but yes, we can set those up within the system. Can't remember it was custom references. I think it might be download actually custom references that have been set up in the system itself. Oh, here it is. Yeah, sorry, online document fields. So we can set up some additional online document fields that they need. give them a label. Could be a drop down of options, maybe it's a mandatory field or an optional field, and that can either be at the header level or at the line level. So from a buyer's perspective on the requisition, they can, well, we can set these up, or they could set them up if they're an advanced user of the system. We could set them up on their behalf typically, but yeah, and set those up where I've set up contract code. They're not hard coded in the system. They're just configurable fields that we've added.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Diana's just asked, she was a little bit late coming to the webinar, but yes, Diana, you will receive the recording of the webinar in the next couple of days, so you can refer back to anything you might have missed. And another question for you, Andrew, are these fields unique for each customer or supplier relationship?
Yes, they are. So within Tradex itself, we have this bit here where I've just got supply management demo. That is what we just often describe as a trading partner or the company on Tradex. So if you think of it from a buyer's perspective, the buyer is the one that sets up their requisitions screen within the system. If you were a supplier and you were doing this, then effectively you could do this on their behalf, or maybe that would be as you. But yes, we do that as with a company within Tradex. That's where we configure, if the question was around these document fields, and that's where we configure that on a company by company basis.
Great, thanks very much. I do believe that is the end of the questions. Yes. Yes, so if there's anything else you'd like to add, Andrew, if not, I'll wrap up.
No, just to say that, of course, please get in touch if you'd like to see anything else, any personalized demonstrations or anything more specific, or if you were able to provide a catalog list and we could import that in to show some of your potential customers. If that was something you need to do, then please get in contact and we can, of course, help with that. But no, thank you very much for your time.
That's it from us. Thank you very much for attending, and we hope to see you again in the future.